Hey, it's Juck. Let's get it.
I'm a believer that this team's going to win the national championship.
Something stupid is coming out of his mouth.
I don't know. Maybe it's just my age. He needs his vote pulled immediately. And of course, yes, a season like this has to have a name.
Let's talk about something good about Justin Freck. What are you doing?
The season of dreams. Ohio State, my guys, are either the best or the second best program in the history of college football.
This guy is a bonehead. They love him.
I question your judgment as an adult. I really do.
I was a total hater. I know that for a fact, and I just don't get it.
Get us back our sleeves.
And say, bring me that. That's the one I want. And welcome into Juckonbucks on a Victory Saturday. Appreciate you all so much for joining me. There are moments as a sports fan when the team that you love, something happens and you know immediately that it is a moment in time that you will take a snapshot of. You will remember exactly where you were, what the circumstances of the game were, who you were with, exactly what happened, how you were feeling before, then after. In those moments, we remember because they're so few and far between and they feel so good. Ohio State played a relatively frustrating game last night. I was watching that game live we had a huge audience. Thank you so much if you were someone who joined. And we were talking in the chat about the game, just the entire duration of the game. I was on here live. And that game was so frustrating. And we'll go over the game. But late in the game, in a Texas possession that was, I guess, their second to last possession, certainly no less frustrating, as they take over the ball at their own 25, down 21-14. Buckeye defense had played great all night, but they were exhausted. 7 minutes left in the game, and yours gets it going. They hit an 8-yard pass, then an 8-yard run, then a 25-yard pass to their big tight end down the left-hand side. And as he is going out of bounds, he stiff arms Caleb Downs to the ground, thinking he's hard, all his momentum, big dude, and he knocks Caleb down. And then he points at him on the ground, which apparently you're not allowed to do. That's an immediate flag. Ref throws the flag. I didn't agree with the penalty at first because I thought it was for the push, which looked totally fine to me. But it was the pointing, and it's clear the kid knew he was doing something wrong because he initially pointed on the ground and then raised his finger to the end zone. But he gets the flag, which brings the ball back from the Buckeyes 25 all the way back to the 40. Sense of relief washes over for about 10 seconds as Quinn Ewers then hits Matthew Golden wide open down to the Buckeyes 15-yard line, and there wasn't a defender within 5 yards of him. Texas runs a couple plays, and they've got third and three from about the 7-yard line. They throw the ball into the end zone, pass interference. Lathan Ransom and Sonny Styles both get a pass interference call. One of the two, they mug the receiver, and Texas gets it first and goal from the 2-yard line. First and goal from the 2, they throw a slant. Jermaine Matthews gets a pass interference call. Now it's first and goal from the 1-yard line. And at this point, I was going pretty nuts. We were at 4 minutes left in the game. There was a couple people in the chat saying, just let him score. We need to get the ball back. So obviously a frustrating, demoralizing situation. You're up by 7. They got it first and goal at the 1-yard line. And Steve Sarkisian talked about his thought process from that point on in the post-game press conference.
Got down to the 1. We went to a heavy package, which is Jarek's package. And so we ran it, and we didn't get much movement at all.
Then Ohio State countered, brought in their heavy package. They bring in Caden McDonald. So Caden McDonald joins Jack, JT, Tyleek, and Ty on the line. Big 5-man front. Now Steve Sarkisian's thinking, I'm going to hit him out wide.
And we had a plan to try to get the ball on the edge when we got down there. They went to big people. I can't quite tell. It was on the far side of where it got leaky.
Caleb Downs and Lathan Ransom both playing 1 yard deep in the end zone. Both line up on the side where the ball was to be pitched. And Quinn pitches out the ball to Wisner. He goes deep. And Caleb Downs, diagnosed and knifed through so fast between the guard and the tackle, he was untouched. Lathan Ransom who's further out towards the sideline, knifes so fast that the tackle does get to him, but he can't get in front of him, and he hits him on the side. And they both converge on Wisner and take him down for a huge loss. Huge loss. Best safety tandem in the country, best safety tandem in Ohio State football history. For sure in my lifetime. They just absolutely made, at that point, the play of the game right there.
But that, it's one of those plays. If you block it all right, you get in the end zone, and we didn't, and we lose, quite a bit of yardage. And at that point, you're kind of stuck behind the 8 ball.
So now it's 3rd and goal from the 8-yard line, 2 minutes, 37 seconds left. Ewers gets the snap, great coverage, throws the ball harmlessly incomplete. And you got a 4th down situation. 4th and goal from the 8.
We knew we were in 4-down territory because of the score of the game. And I was okay even if we didn't score, not that I didn't want to score, but thinking, all right, they're going to have to be backed up and we'll probably get one more possession with good field position.
Because if you give the ball back to Ohio State right then, there's 2.5 minutes left and they're pinned inside their own 10-yard line. So that's the thought process leading in. Quinn Ewers gets the snap. Immediately upon getting the snap, you see Jack Sawyer just beat his man right off the rip. And Quinn said that he looked over and he felt Jack.
Yeah, I felt him. I started drifting away. Thought I was going to be able to get the ball off before he got there. Obviously, it's not like I tried to give them the game.
But he thought he had enough time to get the pass off. And that's where our moment happens, guys. The moment we'll never forget. And it just so happens that for me, I get to see myself in that moment when I look back. And I could not be happier about it, even though I look like a goofball. Snap to yours. Sawyer coming. Sawyer knocks it out. Sawyer picks it up. Sawyer's got the ball. He's running down the field. Sawyer to the 40, to the 50, to the 40. He's got a convoy to the 30, to the 20, to the 10. Jack Sawyer's going to score. Are you kidding me? Jack Sawyer sends the Buckeyes to the national championship game on a strip six. Are you kidding me? The Buckeyes are going to the national championship game. That play by Jack. Obviously, you couldn't feel any better for a single Buckeye, and it just takes you back to that moment on the field, the Michigan fight, the anguish that he had in his voice in that clip.
We're not fucking waving the flag on our field again, bro! Fuck that shit, man! Fuck these guys! Wave the flag on our field, fuck you!
Saying we're not going to let them do it. They're not going to do that again. Fast forward from that moment to last night, the moment Jack Sawyer, who was already a Buckeye legend, just cemented himself into absolute top-tier legendary status. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that he is a hometown boy. It certainly helps. But that play takes you back, obviously, 10 years almost to the day of Zeke Elliott's 85 yards through the heart of the South in the Sugar Bowl against Alabama, which sealed the deal to beat Bama in a semifinal. I mean, the similarities are eerie. The question is, which one's bigger? I don't know, man. I really don't. I'd love to get your guys' feedback on it. But if you don't remember the situation of the Sugar Bowl game, Ohio State was up 34-28. 4 minutes left. You got the ball 1st and 10 from your own 15. That was the circumstance when Zeke Elliott busted that one. And this was Jack's version of it, to seal the deal to send the Buckeyes to the national championship. Texas had the ball, 4th and 8, 2 minutes and 37 seconds left, down by 7. If Texas doesn't convert, they still got a chance as Ohio State has the ball with 2:30 inside their own 10. So which situation is bigger? Which play is more rare? A defensive end stripping the ball and taking it back 83 yards, or a running back running at 85 yards? Which one is rare? I'd say probably Jack's play is more rare statistically than a running back busting off an 85-yarder. Which moment was bigger? I don't know how you parse it, but I'm really curious to hear what you guys got to say. At any rate, actually, what happens on January 20th may affect how you remember that play. as the Buckeyes will go to the national championship game to play the Notre Dame Fighting Irish on January 20th. The Irish, led by a former Buckeye, Marcus Freeman, who's done a sensational job since taking over the Irish, and they're ahead of schedule. Nobody expected them to be in the national championship, especially in a 12-team playoff era in year 3. Definitely not. But my gosh, man, for a minute there, it wasn't looking good for our Bucks. And had they lost it, it would have been self-inflicted. We saw it all night. This was not the crisp, efficient Buckeye team that we saw against Tennessee, that we saw against Oregon. Props to the opponent. Texas was well prepared, full of stud football players, and I thought this would be close all the way down to the end. I picked 28-24 Buckeyes win, but definitely a game in the fourth. But it might not have been. After scoring on the Buckeyes' first possession, a possession that they marched straight down the field like a hot knife through butter, it looked like, okay, this is the same team, same game plan. We're about to see the same script play out that we saw against Tennessee and Oregon. On the second possession, it looked like more of the same. Ohio State moved the ball 54 yards easily. And then on the 55th yard, Trey Henderson gets tackled for a 1-yard gain, gets up and takes a shot at a guy in his face mask, which I could not believe. Travion Henderson gets a 15-yard penalty. The most cool, calm, collected guy on the team. The guy that when the melee was going on with Ohio State and Michigan on the field, kneeled down and prayed with some fellas. Like, that's how chill this guy is. Couldn't believe it. And it was a drive killer. Killed drive number 2. Okay, no problem. Defense is on fire. They go out there. What happens? 3 and out. Give the ball back to the Buckeye offense. Okay, Buckeye possession number 3. Easy completion to Carnell Tate. A second one to Carnell Tate. Looks like they're moving it again. G. Scott gets a 10-yard holding penalty. Drive killer. Buckeyes punt. Defense bows up again. 5 plays for Texas, and they're punting it back to the Buckeyes. Possession number 4 for the Buckeyes. Holding penalty by Josh Fryer. The only one that I thought was a garbage call out of all those calls. But then immediately after that, you get a false start by Luke Montgomery. There's 15 penalty yards right there. And that kills drive number 4. Texas gets the ball, 5 plays. Defense on fire. Give it back to the Buckeyes. And on possession number 5, now we are on possession number 5. Possession 1, score. Possession 2, 3, and 4, all given away by Buckeye penalties, which is so far beyond acceptable for a team that's playing to get into a national championship game. I was losing it, trying to maintain my cool because I was on the air, but that's ridiculous. So here we go. Let's get settled in. Let's get it back going. You get a run for no gain, an incomplete pass, and then Will Howard gets sacked. And it started to look like their defensive line was wearing down the Buckeyes' offensive line. And it started to look like you've now blown some opportunities for some quick scores, and now you're in a dogfight. And it was the following possession from that Texas takes over, and they go down and score and make it 7-7. And it looks like we're going to go into halftime 7-7. Ryan and Chip Kelly have a conversation. Ryan Day says, "What are we going to do?" And he says, "Let's call that screen." Buckeyes got about 30 seconds left before the half. And Ryan Day said, "It's interesting because we had talked earlier on about that screen in prep and said, why do we keep prepping this? Because we never run it." And then I said, well, let's run the screen. So they run the screen, and Travion Henderson totally makes up for that penalty. Will gets the snap. Offensive line releases their blocks. They think they got Will dead to rights. They're coming in. He fades back, waits till the last minute, lobs it right over their heads. Travion Henderson catches the screen, and you just see the convoy out front. We got 3 offensive linemen. G. Scott out there. Everybody picks up their block. Trey hits a crease, and as he hits about the 35 or 40-yard line, turns on the afterburners maybe faster than we've ever seen. I mean, he was shot out of a cannon gone. And the Buckeyes take a 14-7 lead into the half. Ryan Day always harps on winning the middle 8. The middle 8. He likes to win the coin toss, defer to the second half, score with the last 4 minutes, or win the last 4 minutes of the first half, then get the ball to open the second half and win that first 4 minutes of that second half. The middle 8. Talks about it all the time. Talked about it at halftime. We won that last, that 4-minute portion of the first half. They want to come out and do it again in the second half. So they come out in the second half. Can they get it done? Can they win that second part? No, they cannot. We immediately see one of the worst interceptions Will Howard has thrown all year. When he thought he finally had an opportunity to get the ball to Jeremiah Smith, which Texas did an amazing job making sure that if they were going to lose, it wasn't going to be because of number 4. And they took him away all day. There's a couple pictures, and I'll pull one up, of the way they covered him all night. I mean, it was just impossible. You couldn't get the ball to 4. But that's why you recruit so well, and that's why the Buckeyes are so dangerous, because Carnell Tate and Emeka Egbuka, they're top tier, good as it gets in college football if you're not an alien, which Jeremiah Smith is. Unfortunately, they didn't have their best games. I mean, they played good. Emeka dropped one. I thought didn't drop one. There was a ball that he could have caught. He would have caught in most occasions that he didn't catch. Carnell Tate dropped an easy score, but they had really good games. But after that interception, the defense, who had been so great all night, they come out and immediately force another 3 and out. Okay, no harm, no foul. On the following possession, after an Ohio State 3 and out, Texas finally gets it going. And they put together one of the drives of the game, a 12-play, 67-yard drive. It takes 5 minutes off the clock, and they tie the game at 14. Quinn Ewers hit Jadon Blue on a 26-yard wheel route wide open for a touchdown. So 14-14 is the score heading into the fourth quarter. And that's when the Buckeye offense finally came back to life. Will Howard, 13 plays, 88 yards, hits Carnell Tate, hits Quinshawn for 11. They still had a false start on the drive. And on a huge 4th and 2, we're thinking, what are they going to do? Earlier on 3rd and 1, well, 3rd and half a yard. Listen, I'm not play call guy. I don't like ragging on a single play call. I think it's just it's normally out of frustration, but you hear people talk about play calling all the time. There's a reason you call plays in certain situations, what the defense is giving you, or you're trying to set something up for later. The average fan doesn't factor any of this in. They see a play that doesn't work. They say that was a bad play call. And I get it, but it's more out of frustration. If you sit back and think about it, okay, I see where it makes sense. This one, on 3rd and half a yard, I take serious issue with, because you've been 100% on this year, 100% sneaking Will Howard up the gut, 6'4", 240, and picking up a half a yard. 100%, they haven't stopped it. It's automatic. And when something's automatic, you do it. They didn't do it on 3rd and 1 earlier in the game. They pitched it out to Quinshawn. It got blown up. This time on 4th and 2, they keep the ball in Will's hands. Quarterback power. Will Howard bust through the line, potentially could have scored, but he stumbled, fumbled, bumbled like we've seen him several times this year, and fell down. I don't know what it is with him and falling down, but he fell down again. At any rate, it was an 18-yard gain, and immediately after that, he hits Mech for 8, Quinshawn with a 6-yard run, and then another 1-yard run, Quinshawn into the end zone to give Ohio State a 21-14 lead with 4:49 left on the clock. And that takes us back to the beginning of the show. Texas's possession from there when Jack makes his play. Buckeyes win. Will Howard finishes the night out-dueling Quinn Ewers and beating Texas for the first time in his career. He had been winless against Texas while he was at Kansas State. 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 24 for 33 for 289, a pretty good line. Quinn Ewers, 23 for 39, not so hot. 283, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Quinn made some really good plays. He also missed quite a few that really could have hurt the Buckeyes. Texas finishes the day 58 yards rushing. Ohio State with 81 yards rushing. Trey Henderson averaged 7 yards a carry. 117 total yards for Trey when you add in his 75-yard reception. Quinshawn Judkins had just 9 carries for 36, but he did have the 2 touchdowns, and he certainly has more juice than we saw him have in the middle and late part of the years. You can just see it in his legs. He's got more juice. He's playing with the fire again. He's feeling himself. And it bodes well for the Buckeyes heading into the national championship. But I got to say, man, this argument's been dead for a long time now. But Trey Henderson, without a doubt, like not even close. He's the better running back. We talk about the SEC. We talk about SEC bias, but I do want to point out when Quinshon Judkins came up here, I think there was a lot of Buckeyes with a lot of SEC bias about Quinshon Judkins. Ohio State fans who automatically thought he was the better running back coming up here and not the guy that we had on our own roster that we've watched for several years now. I said Trey was the better back. I got a lot of pushback, so much so that I kind of started doubting myself. But Trey's the better back. Trey's electric. And Travion Henderson has shown up for these Buckeyes time and time again in big games, including the last time the Buckeyes played Notre Dame in 2023, coming out of halftime when he busted off that long 60-yard touchdown run down the left-hand sideline in a game where points were at a premium. Trey Henderson shows up every big game, and he's lethal. Lethal. Couldn't be happier for him, especially after that penalty. How about Carnell Tate? Big game for number 17. 7 catches, 87 yards, and when you needed him most, he was there. Mecca ends up with 5 catches for 52. The Texas zone was leaving a lot of spacing in the middle of the field that was wide open. Will Howard took advantage of it smartly, using his tight ends. As we saw, Will Kazmarek with 2 big catches for 21 yards. Both of them, he fought his butt off. G. Scott is a guy that I have ripped on for years. And in the first half of the season as well, for his poor blocking, he's just not very good at. He's gotten better and better and better. Ever since they've started using him in the pass game more and more, he was really, really good. 5 receptions for 30 yards. And the fight in him after the ball, he fought and fought and fought. He wasn't giving up an inch. I mean, it was all Buckeye pride. It was awesome to see. There was another play that I really didn't like that they shot it out to him behind the line of scrimmage. He's not the guy for that. That's not the kind of athlete he is. But on the night, he was awesome. He was awesome. Couldn't be happier for him. And when you look at Kazmarek and you look at G. Scott and the performance that they had, Keenan Bailey, man. Keenan Bailey. Legit. Again, a guy that we came into the season thinking we're going to have to take a good look at this guy and really evaluate how he is as a tight ends coach. His recruiting, his players, they've improved. They are tough as hell. That's his mantra. He wants them to be tough. They are. They're tough as hell. Could not be happier for how that tight end room is going. With the pieces he had to work with, he did a great job this year. Texas playmakers on the other side of the ball. Wisner, 2.7 yards a carry. The Buckeyes defense held him to. Jadon Blue, 4 yards a carry. Golden, their big-time receiver, 51 total yards. The only way it seemed that Texas was able to move the ball was throwing it to their running backs out of the backfield. Those 2 running backs had 11 receptions for 100 yards between the 2 of them. That's a lot for the running backs. And it was getting very frustrating because so often it looked like Ohio State was going to blow those plays up, and they just missed them, and they go for 10 yards. But the Buckeyes defense was phenomenal before they got tired. I mean, and they did get tired towards the end because of so many 3-and-outs from the Buckeye offense in the middle part of that game. But they racked up. Sonny Styles, who didn't play his best game, still ended up with a sack, 3 tackles for loss, 9 tackles total. Cody Simon, Cody had 7 tackles. It looked like he got injured for a minute there. I think he just took a helmet to his knee, but it was scary. And that was after watching JT get his ankle rolled up on, which looked at the time to be pretty serious the way he was on the field, just kind of bent over. But he ends up going to the tent, and then we see they spat him up, and he comes back out. He's running on the sidelines. Will he come back in? Yes, he did, and he played great. And he's playing his best Buckeye football of his career, and it's just very apparent. He's jumping off the screen in a way that he never has before, other than a little spurt here, a little Penn State game there, jumping off the screen. Jordan Hancock, unsung on this defense, 6 tackles. Ty and Tyleek, 4 tackles apiece. Ty Hamilton got a half a sack. I credit him with the full sack on that one. I think he deserves it all. But outside of a few blown coverages that left guys wide open, a very good job by the corners as well. Rotation guys that we saw get some playing time who played pretty well. Arvell Reese got a couple of snaps. Lorenzo Styles, Caden Curry. Jermaine Matthews out-snapped Denzel Burke. Jermaine Matthews played like 40 snaps to Denzel's like 24. Now, I don't know if there's some injury involved there or if they feel more comfortable with Jermaine, or maybe they just felt more comfortable in this matchup. It'll be something that we're going to have to talk about moving into the Notre Dame game. We also saw Hero Canoe play and play well. Caden McDonald, Malik Hartford, and of course, Kenyatta. Kenyatta was the third defensive end off the bench when JT was out. Kenyatta played great, batted down a ball. He looks so much bigger. I mean, feeling really confident about him next year, guys, as he moves into a starting role. Kenyatta looks great. But Jack Sawyer was the star of the night. Jack Sawyer was the star. A game that had all the pressure, man. And Jack, who has been a great leader and an amazing Buckeye, put it all on his back. Put it all on his back. A really good effort from Texas. Defensively, I think they did the absolute right thing, making sure that JJ wasn't going to be the guy that beat them. And they held the Buckeyes offense to 21 points. I've since heard that Ohio State just can't manage to score a lot of points against a good defensive line. And I've heard it cited that they couldn't do it against Nebraska with a good defensive line or Michigan with a good defensive line. And I just disagree. I think that Ohio State's offense, without a doubt, would have scored on two of those three possessions early in the game that they gave away with penalties. I think they were rolling, and I think they would have scored on possession 2, 3, and 4. I think they would have scored on two of those. I also think that the Nebraska and the Michigan game were total outliers as far as game plan goes offensively in this season. We saw that Nebraska game, which, by the way, you're dealing with Zen Mahalski because they didn't want to make the shift of moving Donovan Jackson out because, as it turns out, and Donovan talked about this week, he wasn't thrilled about that move. So they didn't want to rock the boat if they didn't have to. Their hope was, we'll plug Zen Mahalski in, and he can do a good enough job. Probably deep down knowing that Donovan was their best move. But little disruption, an opponent you know you can beat in Nebraska, let's try it, which they did. And it wasn't just Zen who played horribly that day, and it was horrible. The whole offensive line played really bad that day. And when the Buckeyes went to turn it on in the end to win the game, put it in Will's hands, what'd they do? Zip, zip, zip right down the field. Looked like a totally different offense on the last possession when they needed to go win the game. My contention is they absolutely could have blown that team out had they called it like a regular game, which they didn't because of the line. On the flip side, the Michigan game, we know that wasn't the same team that played in the other games. They called a totally different game plan, and they got what they got. My point is, comparing the Nebraska game and the Michigan game to that Texas game and saying those tough defensive lines, that's why I just disagree. I think they absolutely would have scored over 28 points against Texas last night offensively if it weren't for shooting themselves in the foot over and over again. But Texas did a great job. I'm not taking anything away from them. I just think Ohio State was rolling early. I think that might have been if you think early on in that game, on possessions 2, 3, or 4, if they score in two of those, you're almost at give up point by Texas, who came into this game knowing what Ohio State just did to the two previous opponents. If they had come out and opened up a 17-0 lead, that was over. They were giving up. It was done, and the ball just would have kept on rolling. So, but a great job by them. Not taking anything away from them. They were certainly everything I thought they would be, man. They're well coached. They're well coached. They had a great defensive game plan. They had a great offensive game plan dealing with Quinn Ewers' limitations, and he is limited. But getting the ball to those running backs like they did, getting mismatches, they did great. Sark's a really good coach. That is a team that is going to be a national championship contender like the Buckeyes year after year after year in the foreseeable future. They're loaded. They just got the number one recruiting class on top of it. They do great in the transfer portal. And Sark, not just a great coach, but a classy dude, man. Just listening to him before the game, after the game, he's all class. He's definitely one of the good guys in coaching. So Buckeyes now the first team to have ever won the Rose Bowl and the Cotton Bowl in the same year. Notre Dame, the first team to have ever won the Orange Bowl, and it was the first bowl they won, the Orange Bowl, and whatever the hell the first bowl they won. So that's never happened before, to have these major bowl wins under your belt in 1 year. But Selection Sunday, the top 8 teams in the country, Ohio State was one of those top 8 teams. And now so far this year, Ohio State has beaten 5 of the other 7 teams in that top 8. And in the national championship, when they meet Notre Dame, they will have an opportunity to beat the 6th team in that top 8. 6 out of 7 teams in that top 8, Ohio State is going to face. They'll have the opportunity to beat 6 of the top 8 teams in the country on the season. That's insane. Never been close to being done, anything like that. Never been close. Had they beaten Michigan with this generational defense that they have, which has just gotten better and better all year, there is absolutely a case for this Ohio State team to be in best team ever conversation. Unfortunately, you lost to Michigan. It knocks you down. It does. But what they've been able to do since then, an amazing run, and I think that they have shown that they are absolutely in the conversation for a top 10 team ever. I mean, they might be there still, even with the loss to Michigan and the 1-point loss to the number 1 team in the country at their place with the best home field advantage that there is in the country. They just might be there. It's a historically great run that they've been on. The list of teams that they will have beaten should they cash this in against Notre Dame, it's not been done. That's just amazing. Now, moving forward, being that you're going to have in the future teams winning a conference championship against a good opponent, and then 3 more games after that, if you're the conference champion winner, that's 4 really good teams that everybody's going to have to beat going forward. Whether you don't play in a conference championship game and you have the 4-team route, that's 4 great teams you're going to have to beat, or you win the conference championship and then you got the 3-game road, that's 4 great teams you'll have to beat. So depending on if you beat 2 big teams during the year or not, somebody's going to match that with 6 huge wins relatively soon. And we're always going to see a team have 4 huge wins. But if we look at Texas this year, who had the 4-game route, the big wins that they had this year, none, not a single one. They would have beaten 4 great teams. They didn't beat 2 great teams during the regular season like Ohio State did in Penn State and Indiana. At any rate, a historically great season. I started this show a year ago after the Cotton Bowl, and Jack Sawyer referenced the Cotton Bowl in 23, a game that he had, an amazing game. And I remember him sitting in that press conference with Ryan Day, Lincoln Keenholz, and Jack Sawyer, and the look on his face, and to see that 1 year later at the Cotton Bowl, and now heading into the national championship game, which my first show I did was immediately following that national championship game, where we see our rival win. And I referenced something in that show, my first show, that Quinshon Judkins did to take that sting away a little bit of watching that. Let's move on to Quinshon Judkins from Ole Miss. I can't say Judkins. I keep putting an N in there. Judkins. Quinshon Judkins from Ole Miss, the best running back in the SEC last year, who's going to join Trey to make up the best backfield in the country this year. He tweeted 2 minutes after Michigan won the national championship that he was coming to Ohio State. And he was asked if that was planned. He answered that that was not planned. Now, he's full of shit, but I got to say, I appreciate what he did, because watching Michigan win the national championship, as if it's not bad enough, but this particular season, where they spent the whole season whining about how everyone was coming after them unfairly, due process, free Harbaugh, 9 games total of coaching suspensions, Santa Ono and all of the dorks in the pencil pushers tweeting bet with the team. Watching him win it this year was particularly painful. I normally wouldn't admit that, but I say that to say this. I really appreciated what he did by tweeting it at that moment, because he took a horrible moment and made it feel a little bit better. And when Ohio State wins the national championship this year, we're going to look back at that tweet and say Michigan had 2 minutes to celebrate that national championship before we took it over. That's the moment that it started. And I knew all along, as did you, that our Buckeyes were going to be playing in this game. They were going to be playing in this national championship game, and they will, against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, a team that is not to be underestimated, guys. They're a good team, and they're coming in with the confidence that they can line up against these Buckeyes man for man, because there's a lot of guys on that team that played them last year. And if this game is coached with the turtle mentality, it'll be a really close game. I really believe that. This one's on Ryan Day and Chip Kelly. But what we just saw last night, that Texas game, that is a game that we've seen Ryan Day's teams lose a lot of times. Things not going right. Momentum starts to swing, and it feels like it gets away. Last night, I feel like that was a kick the door through kind of moment. I really do. And it feels great. So the Buckeyes, January 20th, will take on Notre Dame for the national championship down in Atlanta. Are you going? Let me know. Tomorrow, I will be I'll be live at 11 a.m. So Sunday at 11, my buddy Dylan Davis, we're going to do a show. Dylan's had COVID, so he's been sick. He's back at it. We haven't done a show together in a while. So we're going to do a live show tomorrow at 11, me and Dylan. Come check us out, and please do help us here on the show. We're trying to reach a goal before we get to a year of 10,000 subscribers, and we're close. We just passed 9,000 last night. It sounds like a lot in a short amount of time, but we've been picking up really fast due to the circumstances of the Buckeyes. So trying to get to that 10,000 subscriber list. So please help us. If you're not subscribed and you do like the show, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and please like the game. Like the game. I know you like the game. Like the show too. All right. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Juckonbucks out. But the best part of the interview with Quinn was when he was asked, what are his strengths as a running back? His answer, he's tough, elusive, fast, vision, patience, makes people miss, run, and catch. So essentially, everything in the world. The man doesn't lack for confidence, and he shouldn't, because he's a monster. Hey, it's Juck.
Juck? Who the f- is Juck?
Juckonbucks.
Juckonbucks. Juckonbucks?
Juckonbucks.
My God, Juck.
Juckonbucks?
My buddy Juck.
Juck is the Juck.
Juckonbucks.
Okay. Juck is junk.
The Juckeyes.
The Juckeyes.
Juckonbucks.
Junk. Juck. Not junk.